Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, Area Sales Manager Avery Bennett joins us for an area update on what he's seen lately in the field and products he recommends in his area. We've got a solid variety lineup for next year. Hear about what Ben is doing to prepare for new soybean varieties in the future. Are you leaving yield on the table? Joe explains how new technology can potentially maximize your yield when a soybean variety is placed on the right acre.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Lynn, and Avery. So we'll get a little different perspective with Avery here today. Maybe help us out a little bit today, right, Avery?
Fill and guess, yep.
Why don't you start first?
As harvest is wrapping up, or it's pretty much wrapped up in my territory, and I cover the southeast Iowa, so 18 counties in southeast Iowa and 9 counties in northeast Missouri. I just wanted to kind of hit on what are we seeing and what's the new things, and farmers are definitely thinking towards that 23 growing season, and we're seeing that take place definitely within anhydrous. I think I saw the first smoke going on 10 or 11 days ago, which kind of made me cringe at first. I mean, it was a beautiful 65, 68 degree day, and they were just going through the fields. And so kind of looking at soil temperatures, were we pretty early on putting smoke on? I'd say yes, but I understand farmers need to cover the acres that they need to cover and, not fall behind. And so they got to do what they got to do. But I kind of looked at the 12-day average of soil temp in the top 4 inches, and it was right around that 52 to 54 range in the past 12 days. But definitely this week I saw, and I wrote it down, I think the coldest I saw was 53, but a lot of 54s, a lot of 55s in that top 4 inches. And, luckily we are going to go into a cold stretch here. I think the next week it's the high is supposed to be 36 degrees, so it's going to drop that soil temperature down quite heavily. Which unfortunately we had 2 70-degree days yesterday, and I had a lot of outside projects this weekend, so I'm just going to suffer the cold here and get a little, get ready for winter. But, that cold temperature is going to, we're going to see a lot more people go and get active in the fields. I don't know, you guys can touch on soil conditions. I think, we're still pretty dry. Soil is not too saturated here this fall, so it's going to be interesting to see, how much anhydrous we lose throughout this fall stretch and going into the spring. And if we can stay dry or through the fall and through the spring, I think we're going to be utilizing that anhydrous quite good.
Got any thoughts on that, Lynn?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what from that aspect on the anhydrous side. This year we had one big rain event locally, but we, for the first time in probably 3 years, that we've been able to not see as big of a variance between the fall applied versus spring applied anhydrous, meaning that the available nitrogen was still hanging around for the corn crop to use. So relative to that, guys this year have been pretty satisfied with their corn yields, but before, maybe a little bit of struggle, and a lot of that, as you've done this year, as you and I have done in years past, going out and taking our probes out there and doing some nitrate testing late in season, typically 40 to 50 pounds, what guys had lost or was lacking for their yield goal based upon previous to that. I think with the soil temps that we're getting ready to run into, if we get a little bit of frost, I don't think that's going to slow us down much as far as, fall tillage work, anhydrous work. On some of it actually might make it just a little bit easier. The biggest thing, with anhydrous is making sure you're getting it sealed over and not letting it run right back out of the hole there. So, but yeah, for sure yesterday there was it looked like Grand Central Station in Houghton, Iowa, with all of the tanks running up and down 16 and J40 there. So guys were definitely getting busy on that end.
Avery, I got a question for you. What are some of the products that your customers are most excited about for next year? We have some new 23 series products. What are guys really excited about? What are some older products that have worked well, and what have you seen, I guess, out of the 23 series in your plots this year?
Sales are wrapping up this week. I mean, last week was a little dead. The really proactive dealers were getting after it, but this week we've seen a lot of sales come in, so make sure you get your sales in here. But I'd say probably our top 5 varieties for my southeast Iowa and northeast Missouri territory. Kennedy's still our number 1 seller, number 1 yielder. That's going to probably be the number 1 bean next year. but the Austin's a heavy hitter in my territory, and it's done very well. I think Lynn's had a really good success with it this year. And then I think our 23 series are going to hit in the top 5, and I think the New Monroe, that more main stem bean, I think it's going to get very popular. It's had a lot of great success. And the Truman. The Truman overall, like winning percentages, I think had probably the most winning percentages among the new varieties in our plots within my territory. And then we'll probably wrap up with that McKinley being our top 5 varieties for my territory.
Good. Very, very solid lineup. A lot of our strip trials are coming in, and those are a lot of the products that are in those in the 1, 2, 3 spots. And
we made it better with the new starting line seed treatment and starting line plus with the addition of Heads Up and True Nemco. I just think in general we are addressing a lot of the problems that we're seeing from the pattern ag soil tests, the DNA soil testing that a lot of our dealers and customers are working with right now. And we're seeing, definitely more white mold out there, which white mold is normally considered a northern disease, but we're seeing it way far south, even south of I-70, which is, as a general rule, I know I was just reading a Purdue pamphlet about it, and they said it's a disease north of I-70. Well, it's south of I-70 from what we can tell. So Heads Up helps us there, helps us on the sudden death, and of course True Nemco on the nematodes. So I think these yields are going to go up from where we're at, and I know, Ben, you've just received the MS Tech complete portfolio of yield performance from conventionals and LLGT 27s and List E3, and I was looking at it too, and obviously the first thing we do is evaluate our current lineup. Comments?
Pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting?
My stint here on Cup of Joe this week's pretty limited because I want to get back and look at the yield data, but all of our current products that we pulled in on 23, a lot of our older products are showing extremely well, and it just kind of matches up very nicely with how our strip trials have gone. We have a very, very solid lineup moving into the 24 sales season.
Yeah, definitely best yet, and obviously we're going to be looking at add some additional strength there, and obviously looking at the disease issues that we're running across from our pattern ag tests, making sure we're focusing on things that farmers are limiting their yield. It used to be, 50 bushel yield was considered a pretty respectable yield, but today farmers are looking for 70 and 80 bushels per acre to pay the bills. And so we have got to get more focused on placement.
Yep. So that is something that we will be happy to share with our Cup of Joe listeners, or on a separate video of some of the exciting news that we have to share on placement, because where people have typically thought about corn placement is so specific to soil types and yield environments, we're getting a little bit closer to that direction with our soybeans, because we think we can make 2, 3, 4 bushel differences by placing the right variety in the right spot. And we partnered with a third-party company that helped us narrow some of this stuff down even tighter, and we will definitely be sharing that information over the next 3 or 4 weeks here.
So in plain language, Ben, what you're saying is that in the very, very near future, we'll be able to look at your field from a soil type and topography, and we will know which soybean in our lineup matches the majority of the sweet spot, you might say, in that field. Is that fair to say?
There's that potential.
Yep, that's where we're headed. So in other words, we can tweak out the maximum yield possible for that particular field when you look at our entire lineup, because we will know exactly where things are going. That's our goal, and that's where we're headed, and that reality could be within the next couple of years, right?
Yep.
I think farmers are going to be data science managers rather than, plowboys, for lack of better terms, with the stuff that's coming out. It's very exciting, especially from, what you're talking about, loss prevention or just maximizing your acre.
Yield risk.
Exactly. And the stuff that you've picked out of all that you and I have preliminary talked about, I mean, it's pretty incredible, the evolution that we've taken from 2020 to 2021 to 2022 and all that in that regard.
Generally, when we release a soybean variety, it takes us a couple years to really figure out where its sweet spot is. It's going to allow us to be able to, when we release the new product, we're going to tell you exactly where it goes, how to maximize its yield, and we'll take the guesswork out so that you can say, well, I had 3 varieties did really well, but this one variety didn't do very well. We're going to have it so all 4 varieties are doing well every single time. And then that what will that do to your field average or your farm average? And it will change things. So that's what Mershman Seeds is working on. We're working on managing the diseases with our seed treatments, and then now the next area that we're working very hard on is maximizing the yield with an individual variety. And farming today is just going to get more complex, and you're going to need a good sales rep to be able to answer all the questions with strong agronomy backgrounds and the ability to understand your individual field and how it fits with our soybean varieties. And that's where we're headed.
Absolutely.
So, anything else?
Well, I want to touch, like you said, seed treatment, our transition with our new Starting Line Plus, and one of my dealers did a, variety by seed treatment test plot this year, and I think we saw among the variety to test plot, same variety, different seed treatments, I think we saw a 4 bushel increase with that new Starting Line Plus. So I'm very excited to get that pattern ag data back and see what was going on in that test plot to see, is soybean cyst nematodes a concern, and did that Trinimco really boost that yield by 4 bushels. And so pretty exciting stuff, and we provide a premium product. So
we work every day as hard as we can to figure out what's the next innovation, what's another way we can increase yield. And we just do it in all aspects. We do it from the production with our color sorters in our seed plants to our seed treatment. And just in general, that's what, when you buy a bag of Mershman soybeans, there's a lot behind it. And the MS Tech piece of it, the breeding part, there's like 53 combines that attack the harvest process, and it's done very quickly, very precisely. And the data that Ben has is we're looking at it right now, making decisions so we can get our growers lined up for next year, and we're actually working on 2024. So we're getting ready for that. So
Turk's not here, but I do have a market update.
Perfect.
I sold all my corn yesterday, so from here on out, corn will be higher. And I woke up this morning to all green on DTN, so it fits.
You're welcome.
There's the market update.
Well,
I appreciate that.
That's really good. Actually, on all seriousness, the Western Corn Belt, the basis is higher above Chicago, and then as you head east, it is below. So there definitely appears to be somewhat of a shortage of grain where it needs to be. And the farther west you go, they're talking about much higher bases. So interesting how this all works out. Well, that gets us to the corny joke. Excuse me. And some of them are going to make you think a little bit, okay? I want you to think about this. 70% of the earth is water, right? Mm-hmm. And virtually none of it is carbonated. So the earth is indeed flat.
Yep.
Okay. We'll get better.
Flat
okay.
pop.
Now, we all have family, right?
Yep.
Right? And we love them to death, right? So what's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Outlaws are wanted. They always say when you marry your wife, you marry the family. So
That's right.
Just remember that. Okay, my last one I think you'll like. What's the difference between a lawyer and God? What's the difference between a lawyer and God? God doesn't think he's a lawyer. Appreciate everybody watching today, and we hope your harvest is wrapped up and your yields were good, and you're getting ready for plant 2023. And again, I'd like to also say thanks to all the veterans. Last Friday was Veterans Day, and we appreciate all the sacrifices that veterans have made to keep our country free. So see you next week. Take care.